Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show. Tonight we'll be doing Gatekeepers, episode 45, part 2 of why player characters need to die in your tabletop role-playing games. Let me introduce my little brother here, Connell, the Cigar DM. And joining us for the first time, Kevin. You probably know him from his own channel or hanging out with Shauner and Rick and the Sean Cherry, and anywhere else we might have seen you there, Kevin?
Maybe a long time ago on Google Plus.
Okay, no, I would have never seen that, but we just met recently. But Kevin's a good guy, and we're going to see what he has to say to the questions that I have. They're still on Discord in a post previously for Gatekeepers. Those of you regulars who are going to join us shortly, I hope. I'm not sure who else will be joining us, but we're going to give them a few minutes to pop in. And if necessary, the link is still in the chat, right, guys?
Yes.
Okay,
That's all.
cool.
That's where I got it.
Did anybody catch Yield Geeks live stream today?
I was busy at work.
It was my first time, and they seem like a bunch of nice guys. I was just in the chat, but it was it's an interesting show. It's a lot like most of our shows out there, but I felt welcome to hang out as long as I could, and then I had to do. Mara was there, of course, and like I said, they made me feel welcome, and that's always a plus. Of course, Omenal was there, but Omenal is like Connell. He's basically in everybody's stream, everywhere, every day, all day. I'm kind of jealous because sometimes he beats me to streams, and I'm like, damn it, it's going to be us again? Oh my God, they're going to think it's some sort of conspiracy. We're trying to take over the interwebs,
Aren't we?
Well, I don't know about you, but interwebs is the start.
Yeah, I have seen a lot more people starting to do these kind of, newer shows and things on YouTube instead of some of the other places that people normally stream, like Twitch and things. So it's
yeah, I have no intention of going elsewhere. I might do some of the other things by mirroring the channel, but I won't be doing live anywhere but here.
Yeah.
Hey Multi, how you doing? Malke, nice seeing you too. Yeah, we at least I have found out accidentally, I guess you could say, that these live streams are kind of addicting. They're so much fun, and it's such a nice way to stay in touch with and have nice interesting stimulating conversations with great people out there. I honestly regret not having discovered this medium a long time ago, but Bruce and I, we know everything happens for a reason, and I guess that reason is because now is the right time, and I hope you guys are getting as much out of this as I know Connell and I are. We've had some streams. I had one that was 9 hours long. I know it's not the record, but for what it was and who was there, it's just really hard to say goodnight and wait for another week to do this, because
right.
It's not quite like actually gaming, which is fun to do online, but there's just something about it that just I've even seen it with Max, in some of his longer streams. You get to a certain point, you think, it's about time to go, but then it's not, because you just got a sudden burst of energy. Speaking of sudden bursts of energy, come on down. You're the next contestant on What the Hell's Going On. How you doing, buddy?
Doing all right. Sorry, I was in the middle of eating.
No worries. As long as you mute the mic, and don't show off that you're having lobster and steak, we'll be fine.
Speaking of steak, I went to the local Hy-Vees. They were having a sale Holy crap! I know there's a such thing as a tomahawk steak. I did not know there was what was it called, a cowboy steak, which is a small roast with a bone stuck in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an experience. But yeah, no.
I've never heard of that.
Well,
That's one of the 4-H cuts.
yeah, there's a few of those cuts of steaks. If I had the money, and everybody was more local than spread out across the country and world as we are, I would love to have a themed Dungeons and Dragons themed dinner where you have these Flintstone looking fucking steaks on everybody's plates and bottles of wine and other things.
Yeah,
Then I look at
that's a real thing.
Yeah,
that's a real thing.
There's medieval times or something else.
medieval time is such
no. I'm talking about like having a D&D themed dinner at a place like that. That is a thing, and I think it's actually there's an event happening in October in England called D&D in a Castle.
Yeah,
and
it's raise your hand if you.
Wow, I'm guessing you have to sacrifice your firstborn to get an invitation from Baphomet himself or something like that.
No, you can sign up for it. I can't remember how much it was. It was out of our price range because I talked to my wife about it for vacation at some point to go to England. Not just for for D&D in a castle, but to go to England and spend some time overseas. So I don't know. It was just one of those things. Like, oh, okay, well, let's look at that because I'm into role playing games. She's into tabletop games, so.
Yeah.
So what was the price tag?
In the thousands.
It was I think it was more expensive than going to Disneyland from Central Illinois. So to go to Disneyland from Central Illinois for the two of us, I think it was like we priced it out around like $2,500-$3,000, and that's like staying like right next to the property and such, and the tickets to get in and all that stuff, plus the boarding for the dogs. To go to England for the weekend or week-long event or whatever, however long it was like $2,500 a person, roughly. But all meals are included. The stay is all covered, and you get to spend time with the game masters and other players. So,
yeah, it's not bad, but the flight is probably the killer on that price.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is.
Well, I was on the on that traveling website. Was it Viking Cruises? Just daydreaming, and they have one that's like 56,600 and ... But you're gone for 180 days, and you're seeing 8 countries. I'm like, yep. If I hit the lottery, you all are not going to see me for a half a year. Where are you going? Not here.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't if you're in the Navy or anything like that, but when you've been on a boat for about a week, you're good. And anything beyond that might be pushing it for somebody that hasn't lived that life.
Well, my grandpa,
as a person who gets seasick, yeah, no thanks.
Well, my grandpa, before he passed away, used to own a shipping company. So when I was a kid, I was on boats all the damn time.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, then you'd be all right. That's great.
So anyway,
I've done a little shipboard. There's 2 ways I don't want to die, and that's in the ocean and in a plane going to hit the ocean. So I don't mind the other ways of dying. It's that knowing you're going to die all the way down kind of thing, or knowing you're going to die all the way down kind of thing. I'm not going out that way.
Pretty sure
not in the cards.
I'm pretty sure most of my friends have known me longer than others have a Deadpool on me, and one of them is probably Jealous Husband as one of the bets. I'm expecting somebody to say something from the bottom left corner. No? Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry, was
Keep up with
sneezing
the cat.
was sneezing my brains out. Sorry about that.
That's okay. You and my son both. Is it allergies or just a temporary setback.
Every year. It's
Well,
allergies every year.
Yeah, that's one of the.
We're almost out of orange season into a proper autumn, I hope.
Yeah, it's been weather's been turning here a bit. Started getting the firewood in the house and all that.
Yeah, same here. We went from 109 degrees last week down to about 85, but it's down to 50 and 60 degrees at night. But even a week ago, it was 90 plus degrees at night where we live, because we're a mile from the sun up here in the high desert. And it's now, I'm looking into next week's forecast, and it's like in the 60s and 70s and even 50s. And I'm like, okay, so in about 3 months, I'm going to be bitching about the cold. Great. Better enjoy it while I can.
Yeah, I'm in a higher desert climate too, and it's amazing how fast it changes. And we're pretty much
Yeah,
right on the
you get like 3 days of spring, 3 days of fall,
Yeah.
and then 6 months of winter and 6 months of summer. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's beautiful at night. It's beautiful at night. The sunsets, sometimes, other things, it's beautiful out here, but yeah, it's, a weird thing too, because I just turned 55 this year. So, yeah, old jokes can wait until I'm done with this spiel. Last year, heat did not bother me one iota. I'm loving it. I'm doing yard work, doing everything. Not a problem in the world. Oh, it's 110, no problem. I'm good. This year, that I must have hit my odometer where ding, suddenly I'm an old bastard, because I just couldn't deal with it. I couldn't go in my garage, so my garage piled up with junk over the last 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I going outside, and no, I'll wait till it's dark. Just suddenly my body just, and I didn't get the Rona or anything like that. It was good. No shots, no boosters, none of that. We're all good here at the Shadow household. But I don't know. Maybe it's something they're putting in the water. I don't know. I'm just.
Well, this year was particularly hot, at least in Oregon. So I don't know. Maybe it's just a few degrees really different, but it adds up.
We've had a typical summer here. Except for like the last couple of weeks of July. I think we've had pretty much a fairly typical summer. What do you think, Jade?
No, it's been unseasonably cool.
Really? It's
yes.
Wow.
August is supposed to be temperatures between 90 to 105 typically, and we barely broke 80 most days in August. So
I felt like it was hotter than that. Then again, we also have humidity.
The humidity is pretty killer, but no, I mean we got up to I think 93 1 week in August, but it didn't really get much hotter than that. And August is our hottest month typically, but it was in the upper 90s at the end of July. No, early to mid July, and then it started getting back down into the 80s.
It felt like I didn't really have to turn on my AC until like towards the end of July. You're right, because I'll just sweat it out. I mean, it's cheaper to sweat it out than freeze it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Well, not here where I live. Electricity was through the roof, of course, and it's not going to get better. It's never going to go down in price. It's just going to get worse. And like Kevin said, we stocked up on firewood, so the winter, they can pretty much kiss my ass unless we actually get snow for more than a week. Bring it on. I'll just put on another sweater.
It's something my grandpa, and I've heard other people say it, but it's a very true statement when it comes to the weather. During the winter, there's always more clothing you can put on. During the summer, there's only so much you could take off before it becomes indecent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
with that, go ahead, Kevin.
I was just gonna say I kind of lucked out. It's mostly hydroelectric power around here, so it hasn't been much of a difference in the energy bill, but the gas bill is definitely for the cars not so good.
Yes, you must have water to keep you cool. Definitely being hydrated is definitely a way to go. That's why I like to drink Budweiser, because everybody knows it's only 1% alcohol.
That's right.
We meet again, Omen. We were just talking about you. Your ears must have been ringing. And with that, I'm going to start the questions. I'm going to start with Jade and go reverse clockwise order.
Sure.
The first question, are there fates worse than death for your player characters?
Oh,
Being one of his
man.
characters.
You see, that's the thing. A lot of players don't think there is. They're like, oh, okay, well, death is just a minor setback. Well, no, that's not how it's supposed to work. Is there a fate worse than death? Typically, when characters die, they just die, and if they can't bring them back for whatever reason, either A, money, or B, religions say no, then they just make a new character. So truthfully, it's one of those weird quagmires for me that my players know that losing a character is supposed to be bad. The player's character is supposed to fight tooth and nail to live. Now, when I get a player who goes, it's just a character, and throws it away every single time, I will take them aside and be like, look, you're sacrificing these characters left, right, and center. To them, they have no meaning of life. Why do they exist if they're just aiming to die every single time? Like, no being that lives thinks that way.
Nope. Well, except the mentally ill.
Well, and maybe it's a failing on my part that I don't put the fear of death into the characters. Well, I should say not the fear of death, the fear of afterlife into the characters. That their afterlife is uncertain or meaningless to the players.
Would you think fantasy religions and mythologies and things like that might play a part of that, or should?
Well, they should if people would read them. But that's the ultimate problem.
People don't have to read them; they just have to suffer the consequences when they don't.
Well, and that's the other thing is, if you don't read the religion's like afterlife like paragraph or two, you have no concept of what a character is going to in the end. So you can't you as a player can't fathom what that character would be going through. Because you just don't care. I'm using the you just generally and broadly, not you specifically. But if you, the player, does read the religion and that character is of that religion, they would know what's waiting for them in the afterlife, and they would know that if they sacrifice themselves, or whatever the dogma of the religion is, foolishly, they're not going to get their reward. They're not going to go to the happy place. For some religions, there is no happy place. It's just all bad. So they should all be trying to live constantly. And then you've got those who go, well, I don't want to ever die, so I'm going to figure out a way to live forever. And those are the ones I kind of put more stock in, because they're trying to beat death, even though death will ultimately catch up to them someday. I hope that answers the question.
Absolutely. I like that you went in that actual direction, because I have a feeling no one else was going to. Kevin, what do you got on this one?
So, players dying in Tetra, that's my 5th edition campaign setting that I run right now. A little bit depends on race, because different demi-humans being anything that isn't just human, most of them were created by something other than God. And my cosmology is a lot. It's very tried to not change myths as much as possible. I was just trying to fill holes in when it came to what was in the core books for 5th edition. So yeah, so it's like I got a cosmology that that kind of works a little bit of all of the major mythologies that are drawn upon for 5th edition. It kind of gets them all in there, and without having to tell the whole creation story, it's just basically that that God creates things, and then those things want to create things like He does, and then when they do that, He gets angry at them and kind of, you know, does something. First was imprisonment. Bahamut and Tiamat are imprisoned in the planet, so you have like this land of the lost kind of area, low tech, high magic, you know, kind of thing going on with Dragonborn and all the metallic and chromatic dragons in that kind of situation. Then after that,
I don't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no.
But when you said create, that didn't include.
Create
not
something in
like,
their image, basically.
Not like babies.
Right. It's kind of like,
Okay.
well, no. It's yeah. It's like not procreation, because these things are kind of like procreation kind of isn't in the picture. So they start to make, you know, things of their image. So it's like, yeah, Bahamut and Tiamat created kind of like the empty cosmos, you know, like the stars and the orbital bodies and that kind of stuff. And they did what they weren't supposed to do, so God locks them in a cage, and then proceeds to make something that is less powerful, more a tribe of things that have to work together. So he makes what I call the fabled. So they're kind of like, it's kind of like, you know, Titans of Greek Roman mythology, that kind of thing. But they're kind of like known to us culturally, heroes, and some of them are actually gods from some religions. So you have things like what do you call it? Well, you got Minerva and Thor, Odin, and Freya go together. And then you have Merlin. You have what is it? You have why can't I think? Gosh, never mind. I'll think of somebody else. You have one of the coolest ones, if I can remember his name, but it's basically a Hittite god of like kind of like the good hunt, like the fruitful hunt, like he's like he's a, you know, a master of hunting. And then I know what it was. So it's Acheron is his twin sister, and so nature has two different planes that it's in, and one is near good and one is near evil. So you know, there's those kinds of stories are just kind of like in that second layer of cosmology. And then the same thing happened. You know, Thor started hammering out the dwarves on his anvil, because he's a little bit different than a regular, you know, like what Thor is in real mythology. And so God separates them into the domains of existence, or what is it? Domains of power. That's right. And those are the outer planes. And domain is the name of the planet. And then from there, it's kind of like more of a basic Judeo-Christian kind of creation story. Well, it's kind of like, you know, the dwarves and the elves are before humans, because that's happening kind of like right then. So what is it? Yeah, the dwarves and the elves and things live on the planet for a while, and then what is it? I think it was that's right. It was the dwarves. They're on the planet, and then it's basically the Fae like start to create an actual like race, and that's when, what is it? The planes of existence, like as they are in 5th edition, Shadowfell, Feywild, and Material Plane, they're separated. The Feywild, Yggdrasil sprouts out of the Feywild and connects everything, and then from there you have like the more like, you know, Genesis or like Garden of Eden kind of creation story. If I could just not forget. And I said I wasn't gonna say the whole thing, but I did. But tried to.
Did I miss the answer to fate's worse than death though?
So fate's worse than death. There's definitely planes that that would definitely be fate's worse than death. There's some. It depends on, like, if you're a demi-human that was created by something, you're probably going to go somewhat back to it. So for dwarves, it's Valhalla. For the elves, it is the Reverie, as described in 5th edition. For humans, it's actually, for humans, it's Purgatory and Heaven, or Hell. And then anything that's kind of in between, that would kind of be of a case-by-case basis, because Tetra campaign setting is kind of like a sandbox setting. So it's like something like that wouldn't be established just like the main cosmology.
Gotcha. So, Connell,
Go ahead.
were you finished? I'm sorry.
Oh, well, I was just
Usually-
trying to think. Yeah, that's about it. I mean, it's fate's worse than death. I think I didn't really go into that. I mean, there's plenty of the Shadowfell in my campaign setting is basically kind of like Castlevania, if it was a
RPG.
plane. Yeah, well, if it was
Oh.
a plane, it's where the descendants of Cain went, and some of them are the flock, and some of them are the vampires, which are the prey, basically the wolves. So they have no shepherd, and yeah, it's not a great place to live. I mean, it's not like completely dystopian, but it's definitely not as good of a place to live as the material plane. So yeah, like if you got stuck in some vampire labyrinth, that as a like a human or something like that, that's going to be a fate worse than death. There's plenty of things, plenty of mythological things you could end up inside of, and able to just barely scrape by survival, and basically be there until it lets you go. I think that's it. But
It
All right.
happens.
Connell?
I don't know what much is left to say between
A
Jake.
lot, to be honest.
Well, fate's worse than death. I mean, there's a couple ways to look at it. If I go by a traditional D&D fair room, either the characters believe in a set god or they go to the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the wall is a place where all damn souls go, and you can normally make a deal with a demon manifestus, something like that. Anyways, and that's how. Yeah, you can make it. Yeah, you make a deal with him. You become a demon, or you become one of his servants, and your life is basically over, and there's no coming back from that. I try to. If my player depends on how the player dies, or if they're doing something stupid, then I might punish them in their afterlife. But for the most part, most people, going back to the Valhalla theory, the only way for a Viking or a Norseman to get to Valhalla was to die in battle, and that's where most characters die. So if they die honorably, I normally reward them. If they're just screwing around, then I will send them to. See, I don't. Hell is hell, and there's really no way around that. Hell, the abyss, places, the planes of lower planes of existence. But I try to stay away from when punishing my players. I try to stay away from the Abrahamic thought processing of heaven and purgatory. No offense to those who do use it. I just try to stay away from it for the most part.
There's a million ways to do it.
You're right. So, they died. And what happens to my character once it died? Well, he comes back as a toad or a worm or, something not human or not, let's just say non-humanoid. You become back as something worse. Thank you, Armin. So that's how I treat it. It's always a case-by-case scenario. I mean, if you got somebody trying to take on the stone giant and get squished just because he rolled a 1 or reflex save and the giant just rolled a fuck off on his stomping roll, that's not the player's fault. That's just shit happens.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how, then I will deal with it as it comes. Does that answer your question there, Shadow?
It certainly does. It does. I'm going to save my thoughts after we bring Mar into the show. Let him take a whack at it. How you doing, Mar? Long time no see. Same thing, Matt. We keep bumping into each other. I guess we all hang out in the same seedy circles out there in the interwebs.
Is my microphone actually working this time?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
So, for you, are there fates worse than death for your player characters?
Well, see, one of the things that first came to mind to me, and they kind of went in a completely different direction previously, is let's assume that, the enemies you're fighting aren't necessarily planning to kill you. Because, like there's the old thing of like, the evil witch has bewitched someone. Like, okay, so you lose a fight, then you get drug off to the dungeon, and then mind controlled for life or something.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I was actually going with this question. For me, like I will use horrible, debilitating physical injuries to stave off death for my players. If, like we were talking about earlier, if, the character's been in the game, they're 15th level, they're almost done with the whole story arc, etc. I'll lop off one of their hands or take out an eyeball before, not always, but, in lieu of killing them outright. And, for magic users and thieves and even fighters, those kinds of injuries could literally be an insurmountable, disability for them at this stage in the game. Or maybe, I'll just give them, an ugly ass scar, drop their charisma or comeliness down by 5-6 points, or burn them with acid, or, there's all kinds of ways that I will occasionally stave off death from. Mar, I'm pretty sure that's you. You got some serious feedback going on there, buddy?
Oh, 1 second.
Sure thing. But, or take away their prized possessions, things like that, as opposed to, what happens after they die, which was interesting that you guys all went that direction, which is something most players really don't give a rat's ass about. Well, I'm dead, whatever, don't care. Yeah, well, you're burning in hell. Don't care, I'll make a new character. Oh, you're in heaven. You want me to describe your walking through the pearly gates? I'm dead. Don't care. It's quite interesting to hear that you guys actually took it to a completely different direction than I'm used to, because that's in a way refreshing that players are more interested in, the afterlife, which, is a big favorite topic of mine. Just ask TM James.
Sorry, I had someone come in.
Yeah, well, exactly, Omen.
Well, one of the things that I was getting at, though, is that it's more like a fear of failure and then, necessarily death specifically. Because like you said, with the whole, like, getting critically injured in a fight and losing a hand or something.
Mm-hmm.
That's, not necessarily something that's going to kill you, but it's an unwelcome result of getting into a fight with something you can't beat.
I do think a lot of players would rather be dead.
Exactly. That is the point. I've had many characters many players except one who we talked about before, the one-armed monk. He was a monk, martial artist guy, loses his arm, and went on to max out in his profession anyways, create the temple of the one-armed monk, didn't let it hold him back, was a trooper about it. And then I've had other characters that, lost a couple of fingers and ready to, commit suicide over it. And I'm just like, you pussies, what the hell?
Well, I mean,
there's magic out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
You should make them watch the History of Trunks DBZ movie. Why? Because in that one, Gohan loses an arm fighting the two androids, and then spends the rest of the movie fighting the androids anyways. Granted, he ends up getting killed at the end of the movie, but it's, one of those ridiculously heroic things where you're fighting two enemies that are in theory equal to you individually, and then there's a gigantic explosion that kills you.
That's how it goes sometimes. You can do
All right,
everything right.
let's move on to question number 7, and I'm going to start with you, Connell, and then move clockwise around the screen. What other ways do you instill the fear of death to a character besides the loss of hit points?
Putting a fear of, let's say, putting fear of death into a character is always a little bit of a trick, because once they get past, if they're older players, I think that's a little bit of a harder trick with older players than it is with newer players per se. Because older players, they've lost a character. They've lost many characters before, because that's just the nature of the game. Sometimes they have a few characters that go all 12 rounds, but most likely not. So put fear of death in them. I've always had a issue with players that once their characters die, they just leave the game. They rage quit. They die. They start crying. I can't believe you're a son of a bitch. ... And I've seen that happen quite a few times. So putting the fear of death into a character is always a little bit of a tricky gambit, I would say, because you don't know how that person is going to act. Now, I'll press on the characters. I mean, a wave after wave of Gabo or whatever else, so the players go through their resources, their arrows, it depends on the DM. Sometimes the DM will actually say, start counting to when the sword breaks or bends or shields break or armor cracks, armor doesn't hold. And by doing things like that, no, you're not outrightly killing your characters, or at least trying to kill your characters, but the characters are like, oh shit, I'm down to my last arrow. Oh shit, my sword's broke. What do I have? Oh shit, my armor is falling apart. Or, there's spells out there, especially in earlier editions, like I can't remember what book it is, but there's a spell called Disrope, which if the armor or clothing is not magical, it'll fall off the body. And you get a character who's Mr. Badassery, and he thinks he could take on a wizard, and the wizard casts his Disrobe. Oh, fuck.
Is that really what that spell's for? You look at me with a straight face and tell me that's what that spell's for.
So that was a 3.0 third-party book. I'm not going to say its name on camera. Those who know it know it. And the book had a lot of
questionable
spells.
Stuff.
Yeah, questionable content. And one of the spells was called Disrope. It was like a 0 or first level spell, and that's what the spell was supposed to do. It was supposed to basically rid the clothing of the target, or whatever your target was. I, as a wizard, happened to use it as a readied action in 3.5. Okay, well, when that paladin or when that knight over there decides to charge me, I'm going to cast a spell as my readied action or held action or whatever it was. And the game master would be like, okay, well, what spell is it? And I'm like, no, you don't get to know that yet. You just get to react. And the game master's like, oh, okay, sure, whatever. And then he would do that, and I'm like, okay, well, he charged me, so disrobe. That would be my ready action. It'd be just disrobe, and suddenly all the belt buckles, all the belts, all the armaments basically start falling off the guy as he's running at me, and he starts tripping over it because, well, now your greaves are. Yeah, that's what would happen. Yeah, now your belt's down around your ankles. What are you gonna do? And everyone else at the table thought it was hilarious. The game master's just like, I need to know what that spell does and how it works. And I passed him the book. He's like, wow, that is a creative use of that level of spell. We were like 18th level or something like that. And I hit him with a really low level spell. He didn't make the save against it, and he just made a fool of himself. I thought it was hilarious, and the game master applauded me for my my tactics.
See, I do pay attention. Anyways,
You do.
I say what you want about me, but I do pay attention to things. So there's other ways of just like driving a blunt nail into your players to make them fear death. I mean, if you drop down my colossal red dragon, most players will say, "Fuck this, we're out." You know, or a dragon of any size or a creature. There's no challenge. There's the challenges so far over their head they can't see it. But if you do small little things like your armor takes damage, your weapons take damage, and shit like that, or your wand of magic missiles just broke because you used it too many times, I think that is a more responsible way of putting the fear of death into a person's character than just beating them overhead with a blunt object. That's my answer.
So my players fear death because if they die, they start at level 1.
Oh God!
Because what's the point of bringing a new character into the mix if they don't get to tell their story too? I mean, it's like what you're gonna just keep going down the path of having to fill characters out more and more. So if somebody dies later in the game, that it's like you gotta basically catch them up to everybody else. I tend to play games that are much more like there are hirelings and skilled, unskilled people. There could be people that are hero classes too. So sometimes somebody, instead of rolling a level 1 character, will take a character that's already in kind of like your entourage or your camp followers, and so they've already been part of the story, but now they're a bigger part of the story.
I can't lie. I kind of like that. I mean, you also run 5th edition, so
yeah.
As coming from a guy who runs 5th edition, I mean, it's not that big of a kick in the nuts, but it can be. Depends on the module and what level they are already. But it's not like it is with earlier editions.
That's the way it was in the old days. There was none of this bullshit, oh, we're a 6th level party, you died, make him a 6th level character. There was none of that.
You roll your you roll your stats and see who you get to be, and guess what? You're level 1.
I mean, you're basically a sidekick for whoever's higher level than you, but
maybe depends.
Yeah.
Depends on how things go.
It's like taking the leadership and having your follower take over once your character dies, only at a lower level. I can get behind that thought. Sorry for cutting you off there.
Well, one of the most amusing things in one of the games I've actually played is that we had a player jump
Did we
in.
skip Jade?
I think he's just commenting.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was also reading Bruce's comment.
You can go ahead of me. That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
Well, what I'll just say is that we had some player jump in and actually take over the role of one of the other players' hirelings because he hadn't created a character before the session had started, and he joined halfway through. It's like very similar to that idea. Just he didn't actually have a character die first.
Yeah, I think if you have a character that might have a little bit of their fleshing out already done, it can be easier, especially with 5th edition. It's like you could make that character sheet in like 2 minutes and you'd be done.
Especially AD&D or below.
Well, 5th edition should only really take you about 5 minutes to build out a character sheet if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Well, most of the time, albeit is buying your equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, depends. But anyways.
If you're playing Fantasy Grounds, you can, if you know how to go through the wizard, not the class, but the character wizard, you can have it done in like 2 minutes. Because it'll give you your picks for equipment, and then if you know where equipment is, you can just like grab it and be done.
I have stock equipment I always take.
Crowbar,
That helps too.
dryness.
Well, for first level characters, it's crowbar, shovel, one man tent, bedroll, 2 torches, 2 drinking skins, and then various sundries based on character class. And then I've got class kits.
Yeah, I always find it fascinating when there's people that run games from basically whatever they can carry, and it's like that's totally like normal that you would just kind of be like strolling around, your adventures. You have no idea where you're gonna stop or stay or anything like that, and you don't have as much as a like a something to get under if the weather changes. It's just that's not how it works.
I mean, my all my characters either have tent or tarp, one or the other, not necessarily both.
That's good. Yeah, but what I mean is just like it just seems like a lot of people. It's like they're just gonna stay at the Ritz-Carlton wherever they stop, and they don't.
Right.
There's no idea of like what it actually takes to make a camp, and like what do you need for that kind of thing.
It sounds like more people need to go find a sport called Dag/Belgarth. You'll learn the difference of having a tent, how to start fires and shit like that, and get to play your fantasy type character while swinging foam across from somebody else or shooting them with your bow.
Yeah, it's cool.
How do I put the fear of death into my characters? I have done the like levels behind part of the party. Like if a character dies and there is no way of bringing them back, the player starts 2 levels behind the rest of the party. But the party there has to be an introduction of that character into the game. It's not something that just happens like, oh, in the next room you find that person. No, I don't ever do that.
Chained
They have to wait. Huh?
Chained to a wall or in a cell.
No, I don't even bother with that. They have to wait because anyone chained to a wall, if they've been there for any length of time, is probably A, malnourished, B, exhausted, C, without their equipment. Some mook is probably wearing their equipment at that point. So I typically don't do the chained to a wall thing because, one, I don't want to have to deal with levels of exhaustion on the character because that's just a headache that I don't want to have to deal with. So they have to wait till the party gets back to the next town. Like your character died. Now, if you did something stupid, that's basically you are taking the time to make a character at the table while everyone else is playing, and your character comes in at the next town, or when the party has to pull out and retreat. Now, some people might go, well, that's not really getting everybody playing at the table together. Well, no, if you did something stupid and allowed your character to die, that's the consequences of your actions. However, if the dice are just against you, I might have you as a backup or a second string of adventurers heading to that site. You were sent as a person to go check on the adventuring group, like a day behind them or a half day behind them, just to ensure that the adventuring group was, either at location and didn't abscond with the money, or that they, didn't need further assistance from a messenger or a runner to go get the army or something. So I might do that way. But as far as the fear of death in my characters, it's the levels behind plus the fact that I don't run like generating stats of dice rolls. I run a straight point buy system, and so and it's not very powerful either. So they're not powerful beings out the gate. They will eventually become powerful beings beyond level 20, but they never start powerful. They always start weak. I always run the 0 to hero type settings or type stories. Or games. You start as a farmer, a 0 level farmer, and you eventually become this epic being. That's beyond level 20, even to godhood in some cases. So the fear of death really is you have a goal, or your character is supposed to have a goal. And that's part of my session 0 planning is have a goal for your character when you create them. And you're trying to attain that goal, whatever it might be. And if your character dies, guess what? That goal doesn't get achieved. If your goal was to, basically take out the tyrant king of the next kingdom, well, you died. You didn't take out the tyrant king of the next kingdom. Your next character has to have a different goal. I do drive that. Whatever character you bring in cannot have an identical goal to a character you already played. It has to be something different because everyone has their own goals. They might have common goals, but everyone has their own unique goal. So that tyrant king that nobody went and did anything about because the character who was supposed to do or fated to do something about it died. Well, what's that tyrant king going to do? Let's travel down the path of consequences and see what happens, and then make it the party's problem as a whole, not just one character in the party's problem. I like consequences.
I can verify that.
Yeah, I like that idea of like being able to bring in kind of an auxiliary character. That may, I don't know, maybe that comes from you've got an organization established, or now you can establish some kind of either overt or under wraps relationship with a group in the city or in the area.
Mar, you there?
Yeah. Honestly, one thing that I've seen people suggest for some is game settings is to actually create more than one character, choose one to start playing, and then if that one dies, you already have one ready to.
Yeah, I actually do that all the time. But how do you make them afraid to die in the first place?
Well, I mean, with that one though, is that you're going back to a level 1 character, so that's, and also there's the idea that depending on how you die, you might end up losing some really cool loot. Like,
sure.
You get this cool magic sword. Now the goblin who killed you has your magic sword or something like that. Which honestly kind of sets you back maybe more than the being level 1 again, because you're not guaranteed to ever get that specific item.
Possibly.
Yeah, it's like I can't think of anything else that hadn't already been said already.
Really? Okay, because I actually I've got a couple that again nobody grabbed, which is cool because that way I get to say something besides the questions. I like to scare my players with the thoughts of things like undead. Life level draining undead is often a great way to scare the players because they're about to lose 1, 2, 3, 4, however many life levels if they do not kick it into high gear and defeat whatever it is they're fighting. Because if they don't, not only might they, live at a lower level, imagine losing 4 levels in one game off your 8th, 9th level, character, the rest of the party survives, but, everybody's now a couple levels lower. They're going to fight a little harder the next time they fight that kind of undead, or if they know what those undead do, they're going to pull out every trick they could think of to put that enemy down fast.
Yeah, this reminds me of, not a TTRPG, but a computer game. Remember the old Diablo, the original Diablo?
Sure.
Yeah.
The absolute most hated thing about that game, and something they completely removed from all later editions of Diablo, was that in that game, stat point accrual was not solely based on your character level. And under certain circumstances, you could actually lose stat points from fighting a certain kind of enemy, which meant that people avoided those enemies like the plague. Didn't even want to go in the same room as them.
I get that and I can understand that, but in the counter argument, and I'm not trying to be problematic, but the counter argument with that is you gotta keep the story rolling. If they're afraid to deal with option,
Don't.
it's actually I'm just
Go for
never.
it. No, go for it.
Well,
No, go for it. I'll have my counterpoint.
I always have to look at these questions from two different angles. One, sitting in somebody's house or wherever and doing it that way, gaming. Then I also have to look at it from a business, being a paid DM. From a paid DM, I'm not going to coddle them, but I need the story to keep going, to keep moving. And if they come across something like a lich or a dragon, a lot of players are going to do the nope, not my problem, not my monkey, not my circus routine. And what does the DM do then, other than throw them on a railroad track and say, well, this is going to happen. It might not happen today, but it's going to happen down the road. So there's always I always have to look at things a double way. The undead that drop people's character levels. Yes, that's awesome. I can get behind that thought processing. Dropping the players down to level 1, I could probably get away with. At home, that would be a little bit of a different argument with Society or Adventure League.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about homebrew games. Yeah.
Well, I mean, with going back to the Diablo one, it's like there were two aspects to that one that both made it hard for players and also a different kind of hard for players. One is that you actually had to go through the area those enemies lurked in because of the fact that there was a major, story objective on the other side, and there was literally no way around them. Two is that in theory, it was actually possible to have them perma-kill your character by reducing your character's HP stat to 0, so that even if you click the respawn button, you instantly die because your HP stat is 0.
That reminds me of something I was just going to bring up. One of the other monsters I like to throw at my party to make them fear what's going on is the good old-fashioned Varghuli, which, if you guys remember from the, I think it was Monster Manual 2 from AD&D, these monsters, when they attacked you, they did 1 to 4 points of permanent damage that could not be regained except not even by a wish. You lost 1 to 4 points each time they bit you that were not coming back. After a couple of little nibbles off a monster like that, the player characters are starting to, again, kick it into high gear to really push the envelope to not die. But I think what Rick set up here, let me bring it back up, is my favorite answer I've heard tonight. Get them invested in their character through role play, make it feel real. That way they don't want the character to die.
Oh, yeah. I'm completely behind that, 100%. But bad rolls are bad rolls.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm going to kind of counterpoint your thought on, you put down the big dragon and the party goes nope. That's fine. They can nope their way out of that situation. That doesn't have to be the story. I don't have to put them on rails to go fight that dragon. They are eventually going to want to go fight that dragon because I am going to do things with the dragon that they decided to say nope to. That is going to either A, ruin the entire countryside because nobody dealt with it. 2, I'm going to keep dropping hints that this dragon's on an absolute rampage. If it's an evil dragon, of course, and no one is able to stop it. Cue the big damn heroes. And 3, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have that dragon attack something they actually care about.
Yeah, kind of like what happened to Well, kind of like what happened to Peter Parker in the first Spider-Man movie when he let the guy run by him.
Yeah, I'm going to Uncle Ben their favorite NPCs. I'm going to Uncle Ben their favorite town. I'm going to absolutely obliterate things they actually care about and want to protect in order to get them to go after that dragon. I'm not railroading them. I'm presenting them with the consequences of failure to act. You know, if they're level 15, they should reasonably be able to take on an adult red dragon. Reasonably. But if they're like level 5 and I plop down an adult red dragon, no, I intend for them to run away. That is a fight you run away from. But
Absolutely.
because you ran away from it, you now know what your BBEG is. You now know you are eventually going to have to go fight that dragon come what may. You know, and if you don't, you get to experience the consequences.
I mean,
You know,
well,
go ahead.
Well, one of my thoughts there is the old one is like you run away from the dragon. The dragon perches on top of the mountain and watches to see which town you ran to, and then wakes you up in the morning by barbecuing the town.
I mean, you can definitely do it small.
I mean, at that point, if as a player, if I saw a dragon and I was only level 5 and I knew that dragon was way above my pay scale, I wouldn't stop at that next town. I would keep going and going and going as far and fast as I could because I know that dragon's going to barbecue the area I'm currently in. And being one of the idiots who wants to survive that encounter, I'm going to flee as far away as possible. I'll even double time my horse to its death and then keep running on foot if I have to.
I mean, yeah, I get that. And going with what what Shadow said, I have no problem pulling the Agent Carson button. You know, I like doing that. I normally like doing that at the very mid-beginning of the game. So if the party's not quite gelling, I like to kill somebody that, you know, their favorite bar owner or whatever to make that group more gel better. It's like, oh shit, that son of a bitch is not getting away with this. We need to work together. I am not opposed to that. I do that, not a lot, but I have done that in the past.
And you wisely said bar owner and not bartender because bartenders don't die.
Yes, because they're hot. And the redheads. Because all my waitresses are hot redheads.
Did you see that new video or the new meme where it shows what one graphic effects guy did? He fixed the entire.
Oh, for the mermaid. Yeah.
Yes, he made her back to a white ginger. I love it. What? That's what we're supposed to go for.
No, but see, this is just a history in a nutshell. They're always trying to erase the gingers.
They always do his ginger side.
He's not wrong, but
Connell, stop sticking up for Disney.
I'm sticking up for Disney. I'm sticking up that's a fucking. It doesn't matter at this juncture.
Ginger side.
I'll play nice.
Yeah. Free the ginger.
Hey.
What questions are we on?
Promote the ginger.
Wait, really quick. You know how to put the fear of death in somebody's character? Make a young redhead dwarf with dread show up. That puts the dread in everybody.
I used to run Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, and half of the dwarves were gingers.
Gotta be.
Well, dwarves have to be Scottish. I mean,
that dwarves have to be Scandinavian.
Yeah, I think it depends on your frame of reference. But I've seen anything between
just like
chaotic to lawful.
Just like Dro have to be Dol Calfar from Scandinavian lore.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, let's give the reins back to Shadow. I mean, this is his show tonight.
I just thought it was what do you call it? We were just trying to broaden the tent of role playing with Drow, and they kind of, you know, there were some themes that were connected between the communities.
Bruce, did you want to add to this question? That being, what other ways do you instill the fear of death into characters besides loss of hit points?
I actually try to do my best to make the players feel like they've lived here before, not just like right now at the table, but this place is familiar to them. Even if the world that you're in right now is war torn and there's hobgoblins on the march and they've done things to the surrounding geography that nobody ever thought would happen, I want to see the players start to kind of get used to seeing things and letting them know throughout the play that, like, your muscle memory remembers these steps. Your hands are reminded of this railing as you walk up to the bar. As you push open this door, the familiar smell of your father's tobacco and November's porter beer hits your nostrils. Things like that. I want to make them. I try to put everything. Whenever I need to jangle a member berry, I want to hit them with something related to scent, because that's the most powerful sense that any of us have.
Yep.
And
Well,
therefore,
for memory, yeah.
if I can get you guys to have a fond memory as I describe something that should be very familiar to your character, and you are role playing your character right now, and I need you to have a thought that's going to it's going to already generate a happy response out of you, the player, or out of somebody just watching this. And somebody's going to be like, he's playing on their memories, which maybe not. I'm not maybe doing that. You might already just be a well-rounded person who has a variety of smells that you've experienced, and Bruce is hitting you with them with the flavor text.
Yeah.
And then more so, once you go to these places that you have these familiar smells, or your body knows how to clamber up these steps when you're drunk and you've had 7 pitchers of light beer and you've got to go the 432 steps back to your dorm room. And you know that it's just a little, you can just clamber up a little bit further and you can have your bed. You can have that happy familiarity. And then afterwards, people will recognize your character because of the actions you've decided to have them follow through with. And I keep hitting you with that. I don't want to have anything else when it comes to making people fear the loss of their player character. I try to remember the things that meant so much to me when there's something on the line. And I try to throw that out there as I'm describing that cold feeling running through your body as you failed another fortitude check, or as your friends are too far away to do a simple move action and cast a curative spell upon you. Or maybe I just have to describe the agonizing detail of Johnny rolled a 7 on his heal check, and as he's putting in the stitches, you can feel more of your life's blood falling away and your arms getting very numb and cold. I want you to absolutely have an association with the things that's coming out of my mouth, to the point that it will become an honest response that you have for the character. Not one that you have to fabricate or program, but one that you earnestly are concerned about losing this player that you've got, and you are doing your best to help it cling to life. That for me will do more by talking about the smells of your surroundings, by talking about how people recognize you, how your deeds in the past as you were growing up have become part of the mental asphalt that everybody else walks around in their own heads. Anyway,
Roy, two quick things from what Bruce said, if it's cool. First of all, I didn't know we went to college together, because God remembers those nights.
I only know EIU really well.
I know Champagne.
I really like that answer, Bruce. here I am, thinking of, the more gruesome, you know, threatening, violent ways to instill fear, and you brought it down to, to a more inspiring way to do the same thing. I like that.
I mean, from one perspective, you could think of it as losing things that your character had gained. Even though they're not material things, they're still things that would be useful to you as part of an adventure, such as the simple fact that your character has done a job for, say, the Thieves Guild, and the Thieves Guild in the local area are actually willing to do a favor for you. Whereas if you have a new character, nope.
Well, the other, yeah, I get that. That does kind of suck when I'm like, I was banking on this. Well, sorry, different character. Not going to happen. But to say what going on what Bruce said, the second part what I wanted to say was, I like authors that really use the same pretense. George R.R. Martin is really good about. Hold on, Shadow, before you have a nurse breakdown on us. About when he describes something, especially food, you could taste the food in your mouth when he goes about his banquets. For those who read the most of the songs of fire, the Song of Fire of Ice. I mean, he is really good about putting the small little detail in it. So is Token, but Token drives me crazy, so I don't normally put him too high on the pedal on that one.
So I'm gonna answer a question from chat real quick. Six Nations 31 Kings. Has anyone role played dead characters returning to their bodies? I did. I had a TPK, and as the event for them to not be perma dead, I ran them through an actual board game instead of finishing, because everyone's night was ruined basically, because it was a huge TPK. So we're like, you know what? It's early in the night. Let's not all go home, angry or whatnot, or upset about how the games turned out. So we busted out a board game called, it's on my shelf over there, I think. No, it's here. It's one of my board games. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head now.
Secret Hitler?
Son of a gum-chewing funk beast. I can't remember what it's called.
Not Talisman?
Legion
Not
of
Talisman.
Myth is having a conniption fit over there. Whoever's got Discord on, go into your settings, look for streamer mode, turn that shit on. It'll mute your sounds.
I don't think it's me.
Sorry.
Night Cage. The game's called Night Cage. It's a fairly new-ish game. But so we played through Night Cage for the rest of the night, and I basically said, okay, if you guys can make it through as a team in Night Cage, and escape the Night Cage, your characters can come back from the dead. Basically, Night Cage was purgatory for them, where they got to try to escape purgatory. If you haven't played Night Cage, I highly recommend it. It's a great cooperative game of wandering through the darkness while monsters are trying to, eat you. So that was how that night resurrected into the next day and into the next game session.
So how many of them
That's
actually...
kind of a perfect segue into the next question. But go ahead, Mark.
I think
You
someone
want
else
to say
just had
something?
yeah.
Oh, I was just asking how many of them actually managed to make it out.
So Night Cage, because it's a cooperative game, everyone has to get a key to any one of the gates, and they all have to be on the same gate tile to open the gate. So it requires as many players as there are to open the gate. So no man left behind, basically.
So either everyone lives or everyone dies.
Yes. Now, I was willing to be nice and say anyone who does, make it to the gate, I didn't say it out loud, but basically I had said in the back of my head, anyone standing at the end gate, because sometimes this game is incredibly difficult. Anyone standing on the end gate is resurrected. Anyone who's not is not resurrected. That was like my secret I'm going to let the characters come back. Anyone who is standing on the gate at the end of the game, regardless of whether they all win or lose. So,
I mean,
it was a fun night.
Putting the fear of death of somebody is having their player character get shunted to a different plane of existence that just happens to be the abyss with the Spider Queen people in it. That fucking sucked. I'm just it's like I might not come back alive from this one.
All right, so next question. Sorry.
No worries. Hey, Kevin, we understand. We'll skip you as necessary, but I'm going to start with Bruce because I really want to see him get kind of spun up on this one. And before I read this one off, this question was inspired by a lot of things I've been reading, not from any experiences I may have had with any of you guys in a gaming session or any of my recent games with other people out there. But from what I'm reading about the newer generations of games out there from a certain point to now, I find this incredibly irritating. Okay, so I don't want anybody to think I'm directing it at anybody, especially you, Connell. And here goes. Are we really so worried that players would rage quit or not return to the table if their characters die that we let them live?
That's a damn good question.
Bruce?
I'm thinking.
Okay.
Why that feels so pointed.
Give like an example, Shadow, because I've got like 6 answers in my head, and I could totally go off the rails on one of them or all of them, but I need like a structure real quick. Give me an example.
I'll go way back. You're dungeon mastering for a group of not hardcore, loyal, tested, tried and true friends, but some people that you're trying to make friends with, trying to get them into your game. They've been playing for a while, and you don't know how they were going to react, but one of them is about to die. Are you gonna, would you worry about, them leaving or rage quitting or never coming back to the table if they die because it's going to happen?
Not in the least bit. If your character is dying and we've done what we can to educate you on how you can manipulate the rules and how you can sculpt your character and how you can make it to where most of the die rolls are going to be pointless because you succeed on anything but 15% or less, whatever. If we've done all this and your character is still dying and you're making decisions that's not really altering the outcome for your character, I'm not going to really go far out of my way to try to save you. I'm not going to offer that, because every time I've actually inserted a narrative for players to save themselves with, it ends up hurting me more than it does the player or the player character, because the character is now safe from death, and we've got this alternate way of dealing with this crisis now. And the players, all they've got to do is just remember certain things. And Bruce will institute, he'll engineer a cheat out of a situation. And I don't really like doing that. I don't like having to put on kid gloves in the middle of a combat and be like, "Oh, guys, don't worry. Yeah, I did 38 points of damage to you with one attack last round, but don't worry. I probably won't hit you this round." Clatter, clatter, clatter. Okay, well, I hit you for another 22 points of damage, but you only have 13, right? So you're just at -9, and your friend is right on top of you. What? I am? I thought he was 10 foot away from me. No, check the figures, because you moved when you were fighting. I didn't move. You did. I didn't move. Okay, we need to keep going. The thing is that you don't want to have a fear of injuring the players because your game is more important than their feelings. And I know that sounds like a very selfish mindset, but you need to be consistent. You need to have a reason why you gathered them there. You need to adhere to the rules that you set down at the start. If you're going to pad everything with bubble wrap and let players just fall on mattresses after like going through a 70-foot story fall, and it's just like non-lethal damage. If you're doing that shit, just give up the DM screen. Just stop. Because you obviously don't give a shit about your game. You're more concerned about being Mr. fucking popular. And you've lost the spirit. Gary would fucking disown you. You could go sit at JSG's table and he would love you. Okay? Get the fuck out of my hobby.
Awesome.
I'm
gonna
sorry.
save my no, not at all. I want to say stuff, but I'm gonna save it till the end. I'm gonna go around again counterclockwise. Mar, what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, one of the strangest cases I've ever seen of a player rage quitting, it was actually not because he died, but because he did something stupid and got two of the other players' characters killed.
Oof.
It was an exploding skull trap, and
nice.
He decided he was just going to grab everything, despite the fact that one of the objects is a strange skull with glowing runes on it, and he decides he's just going to pick it up and shove it in his pocket. Well, he grabs it, it explodes, somehow doesn't kill him, but kills two of the other characters in the room.
Can I clap? Is it against the law?
Unintended consequences.
But
Sorry.
I mean, that's that. Again, but one thing Max has said on several things is that in a game you should have the understanding that your character might die because of reasons, and in this case, it was my character that got exploded and dead. But it's just one of those things that when you play the game, should have an understanding that that's part of the game, and if you leave that out, it's not the same thing.
Fair enough. Jay?
Can you repeat the question so I have it fresh in my mind?
Okay.
Are we
really so worried that players would rage quit or not return to the table if their characters die that we let them live?
There's the door. If someone's going to rage quit my game because they did something and their character died, or because dice rolls were just not in their favor, if they want to rage quit, I'm going to say there's the door. Bye. I've had players rage quit my table, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. Bye. Go find a game that suits you. My game isn't for everyone. I'm going to say that up front. My game is not for everyone. I don't care, that you wanted to make this big damn hero, that was nearly invincible. Well, it's nearly invincible. Resistance is not immunity. Your characters can die, and I will be aiming to, put them in dangerous scenarios where they could die on a regular basis. Adventuring is the most dangerous profession. So expect to be put into dangerous situations. If you want a character who's immortal, invincible, is invulnerable to maiming or disfiguring or scarring, I'm sorry, this is not the game for you, or my table is not the game for you, because if I roll a critical hit against a player, that character is scarred, like permanently scarred, unless they get a regeneration spell within the next 24 hours. if I hack off a limb, well, that character now has to figure out how to live life without that limb, leg, foot, finger, whatever. Unless the limb just happens to be their head, and then they don't have to figure out how to live. They're done. But I mean, players who want to be this invulnerable, unkillable thing perturb me because that's not how life is. Yes, we all want our characters to be the big damn heroes. We want all of our characters to do really cool, awesome things that we ourselves are incapable of doing in most cases. That's part of the escapism, or that's part of the thrill of going and playing in these games, is to get to do that really cool shit. So, having characters who can do those things are amazing. But at the same time, if there's no risk, there's no real reward. It's just a fallacy. Your power is an illusion at that point. And why are you playing? If your power is all illusionary, why are you playing? So, yeah, rage quit my table. Bye. I'm gonna, you rage quit my table, that puts you on the D list immediately. Now, those who have been watching me have known, or now know, that I have a ranking list of players. It goes S through D. D is do not call. So you rage quit my table, you're on the D list, period. And good luck getting off of that list.
Cool. Kevin's got a little issue, so I'm going to let him answer in the chat if he'd like, and I'm going to go straight to you, Connell.
Well, once again, this falls under a split answer for me. If it's a home, if I'm playing over at a friend's house, hypothetically, I'm over at Jade's house, and we're level whatever, and my character gets its head lopped off. I'm normally reaching for my my D6s to build a new character because I don't get emotionally attached to my characters. I don't think it's healthy for a person to get emotionally attached to their character because shit does happen. Now, for example, and I'm not going to say names, years ago, I was playing at Jade's, being Jade used to be roommates, and we had a certain character who was married, and it was a dual set. It was a husband and wife set. And once one of the character dies, I'm expecting the other character and who rage quits says, I'm not playing anymore. I'm kind of looking at the spouse. I'm like, so are we going to lose you too because your spouse decides that she does not want, how dare you kill my character? So I don't, that always kind of bothers me when people get emotionally attached to their characters. I get having a bad night. I also get how emotions can run high. Rage quitting is never a good answer. I mean, if your character dies, in my opinion, if your character dies, take a step back from the table, go grab a drink, go use the restroom, go get some fresh air. Let your emotions calm down. Don't do anything that you're going to regret. This is why I tell to all my players, it being at the game shop or me running for friends. Do not let your character, do not get that emotionally attached to your characters. That is the end of your world if it dies. It is a fictional, say this with me, boys and girls, a fictional character that has no real consequences on tomorrow. Now, that's my personal belief on it. When I run a shop and I have somebody rage quit, I'm always looking at, well, I just cost the shop a little bit of money. Do I really care? Because if you're going to act like a child at an adult game, you don't need to be there. I'm a little bit more forgiving at the shop than I am at running a home game, but I'm in tone with Jade and Bruce. There's the fucking door. If the shop is out $5, it's out $5. We don't want your drama nor need it. But with that being said, going back to what I said originally, just take a character dies. Take a second, take a breath, relax, then come back and look at the situations. Because death in certain levels is not, the permanent fixture. I had my character's head lopped off in one of Jade's character, and the guy next to me is like, "Don't worry, I'll be back alive by the end of next round." I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's awesome."
Okay. But A, you were mythic. B, you were like 19th or 20th level, where death had little setback for you, again, because mythic. So, characters getting their head lopped off, the only way that was going to end, like in a TPK, was if it ended in a TPK. Otherwise, everyone was going to resurrect the next day anyway because of mythic power.
Right. I'm just using that as an example of, don't lose your shit. It's a game. At the end of the day, it's a game. And that's normally how I handle people that, are like that. No, I will not cater to anybody, but I will talk to them if it does happen and treat them like an adult. So
cool.
I mean,
I'm gonna read off Kevin's answer because it touches on part of the question that was actually more important to me. And he said, I don't know if I've ever had someone rage quit in real time, but I've had people not show up under rage quitty circumstances. This is what I was talking about for the most part, is because, like all of you said, we're all adults, and I'm going to hit Legion of Myths comment because it's actually also another really good one. But I've had players not come back to the table a lot more often than I've ever had anybody rage quit. I've had entire parties break up because the driver, let's say, of the group, his character or her character died. Well, I'm not going to drive you guys back because, whatever, and thus the party falls apart. Or
that's douchey.
Like a husband and wife team, I've had that as well. And one passes, one character dies, and over the course of the next week, in between the next game, suddenly, they don't want to come back because life is getting in the way. We'll call you, which, means nice knowing you in my language. So I was that's mostly what I was focused on because, like I said, most of us are now adults and most of our players are adults. But I can see how we may want to cater, not saying that I ever would, to our players in some small respect to keep them coming back to the table, and keeping them alive might be part of that equation. Now, over here, Legion says, I want players to become emotionally attached to their characters, at least to the point of sincerely trying to keep it alive. If the player wants to go full suicidal, well, that's Darwinism at work. I totally agree, although I've never had any characters try to commit suicide. I've heard comments before, well, if I lose my hand, I just let me bleed out, or, whatever. I don't want to run the character anymore. That kind of thing. I'd rather be dead than taken prisoner. All kinds of crap that might, peer pressure a dungeon master into, becoming a big fat Care Bear, and nobody likes that in the long run. And since Kevin's got to remain quiet, my games are very sandbox, so a character being there or not isn't really that big a deal. Yeah, exactly. However, it can force us to rewrite or retcon a story. I've had players that did all kinds of cool shit, but then, for whatever reasons, they're not playing anymore, and it's kind of like a negative, sour taste when they leave. So, you can't just make their character disappear. You can, and I honestly, I have on maybe 2 occasions because, they were douchebag on the way out. Well, in my mind, that character, kind of no longer exists or never existed because, you're going to be like that and try and ruin it for everybody else. I'm just going to have a little talk with the players and let them know, well, remember so-and-so? Well, forget they ever existed. We're just going to pretend that it was somebody else, etc.
wandered off in the middle of the night. Got ate by an
Right.
owlbear.
And again, Kevin, if we're talking Adventures League, which I don't know what that is, to be honest, never had an issue, but I always ran AL online. I did have one guy that was trying to be in charge because he played. I just kicked him from voice chat and refunded. Okay, I guess that's a pay to play kind of thing, Kevin.
It's the more official version of what I do. I've done Adventure League as part of D&D, and Society as part of Pathfinder, and you build. You know, what was that show?
Killing me, Victor. Killing me.
You know what? What was that? In Stranger Things, when the guy's little sister comes up with a Lady Applegate or whatever the character's name was, I have character will travel. That's how Adventure League works, and that's how Society works. You build a character, and as long as it stays in good standing within the Society or Adventure League, you could just bounce from campaign to campaign, and it levels up that way. Have sword will travel type scenario.
I guess that's kind of like having a shared world between multiple DMs, kind of, sort of.
It is. It gets kind of hinky from time to time, but there is a set amount of one-shot modules that they'll produce. That's a season. It's considered a season, I think, where all these modules are ran in this season. The next season, there's brand new modules. So it is somewhat of a one-world scenario with Adventure League and with Society.
Well said, Kevin. Sorry, Max, if I misread that, but yeah, I kind of got what you were shooting for.
Now, I have played a character try to commit suicide by putting a bag of holding into another bag of holding so I can kill a big bad once. I have done that.
Mm-hmm.
But that was to kill the big bad to save the world.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question. I think we beat that one rather soundly, and I'm glad to hear we're all on the same page that that's why we're here tonight. Player characters need to die occasionally. Not every time. Every group has to end in a TPK. And not every player has to have a character die. To enter the club, but it kind of needs to happen from time to time. So moving on to that idea, what methods do you allow for a character to return from the dead? Raise dead, reincarnation, resurrection, wish. What do you guys use? I'm going to start with you, Mar.
This is one that I haven't actually had come up, because usually in the games I've played, if someone did get killed, they just kind of stayed dead. Although in one of the Hyperborea games I was in, we did actually do some sort of resurrection thing on a character who died, which in Hyperborea has a rather hilarious side effects chart where, like, okay, yes, you got resurrected, but here's what happened instead of you coming back as you were. So it wasn't, necessarily a good thing to get resurrected in the long run, but you were at least, you mostly. But yeah, it's like
mostly.
But well, it's the one case I can think of off the top of my head was a character who started out as a human and who got resurrected as a fish man. Yeah, that's one of the possible side effects. I don't remember the full list. I'd have to look it up in the book. but yeah, that's like the only one I've actually come up.
Do you mean reincarnated?
Huh?
Do you mean reincarnated, not resurrect?
Yeah, I guess reincarnated, not resurrect, because it definitely didn't look like he did before.
I would not know what that's like.
What? Being
Yeah,
a
I've been there for that, Connell, numerous times. I'm going to move over and let Jade answer this question, even though he kind of did a moment ago. But in every situation besides that, what, if any, methods do you allow?
So yeah, normally I let the game engine determine whether or not resurrection is possible. In Dungeons and Dragons 3X, you've got Raise Dead, you've got Resurrect, you've got True Resurrection, you've got Reincarnate, Breath of Life. I think that's actually a Pathfinder spell. But you've got multiple ways of bringing people back from either the dead or even the brink of death. In just that one engine. In other engines, you might have more difficulty bringing someone back to dead. One of my favorites, I'm gonna grab it off the chair there, is Iron Kingdoms. They address religion and death. Like, you can't even, if you even ask a priest of any religion about bringing someone back that wasn't at least minimum level 10, they'd laugh in your face. Even if the character is level 10, they still ask for a payment of like 20 or 10,000 gold pieces plus 1,000 gold pieces per character level beyond level 10, just to even attempt the ritual. And then the god has a dice roll to say yes or no, and it's a 5% per level above level 10 chance that someone gets to come back. So normally I let the game engine determine whether or not it's even possible. Now, me as a game master for my own homebrew games, I don't like it that, players get to just come back like nothing happened. Like, no, there has to be consequences for death. If you come back, there are consequences. You're haunted. You're, the Reaper is always over your shoulder. You're always kind of glancing off to one side. It might distract your character. You might take penalties on dice rolls for a while because that character is like always looking over their shoulder, wondering when death is going to catch up to them. They might have the souls of the dead who wanted to come back but were denied following them around because they got to resurrect, and those lost souls are angry that one person got to come back. These are consequences of coming back from the dead. The character might also have mental trauma. They might have PTSD of arrows flying at their face that might cause them to duck and run. Characters who burned alive in a fire, if they're brought back, they're going to be absolutely terrified of open flame because that's how they died, and they're going to they should remember how they died. And I'm going to give bonus points to anyone who actually role plays that. If you role play your character well at my table, I actually do give bonus experience points for doing so. I give bonus rewards for good role play. I value story role play or interactive role play more so than straight combat. So, if someone comes back from the dead after taking a cannonball to the chest, they're going to be terrified of cannons. And if the player, role plays that really well, of, when they hear the big booms of cannons, they go seek shelter immediately and don't want to budge. I might actually reward that, and I might give them other clues or other avenues to explore away from the cannon fire. But that's how I would handle it. There are consequences to it, and there should be consequences to it.
That reminds me. There were two caveats I forgot to mention about the thing in Hyperborea. One, the whole resurrection thing has a potential to fail. It's just one of the many side effects is that it didn't work. Two, unless you have a super high level character in your party, you're not going to do that during an adventure. You're going to have to do that after the adventure's over, because there's only like a handful of people in Hyperborea who actually have the ability to do it.
Now, I'm going to caveat one of the things I did say. There should be a consequence to coming back from the dead. I do run in almost every one of my homebrew games. I do run an event called the Great Hunt. It takes place in a large city, a city of dragons, and players can purchase 2 resurrection life insurance policies if they have the gold. If they have the cash or the diamond dust on hand, they can buy a true resurrection, and they are not gone from the world for very long. They're gone from the world for like maybe a second. As soon as they die, they true resurrect back at the Temple of Bahamut, where they bought the insurance policy. Because the event of the Great Hunt is a way for characters to earn a little excess wealth and or notoriety, or if the Dragon King is looking for people to send out to do some exploring or adventuring or murdering of things, because murder hobos exist. He's going to handpick from those who survived the Great Hunt to go do this thing. If bad rolls just happen to happen during this festival of all things, I'm not going to necessarily penalize the players outright for joining into it. Those who don't want to join, awesome. They go off and have a different adventure. Those who do participate in the Great Hunt, well, they have a modicum of safety or a safety net if they're willing to purchase it.
Interesting. A little more than I'd be willing to offer my players, but something to think about. Connell? Sorry, Bruce?
I really like the idea of reincarnate, but that's one of those spells that you cast it, and you have to have players that are willing to accept whatever the die and DM say. And that's the problem with reincarnate, because too many people will get like a character race that like it doesn't offer them the right benefit, and they're like, Tom, slit my throat, pretend I'm an orc. I can't kill you. Yeah, you can. Just pretend I'm an orc. And you get these unusual moments where like they do things like they sacrifice their character or things like that, but it's definitely one of my more favorite spells because it starts an event. And when you have that at your own table, you actually feel kind of blessed or treasured, like this moment's supposed to be happening with these people at the table. And you can't get that same feeling whenever you cast Raise Dead or Shawner or whatever spell title it might be for your character to be able to get somebody back in the action again. I'm sorry for saying Shawner. I just saw it on screen. But anyway, I think Reincarnate's just one of those great spells, and it kind of goes back to like the old style, the old school play, because it is not something that was brought in 5th edition and Paizo. They've had to improve it, or not improve it, but bring it up to speed through the third party people. They forgot that spell in the official releases. Figure out why.
Okay.
I know, kind of meandered a bit, but that's just how I feel. That's like one of the best spells in the game. And Connell's actually been guilty of that shit, where he rolled up a character he didn't want to fucking play as an archer. Oh, my kobold died.
Actually, no, I was fine with most of them. It was the last one until I became an elf that got ganked, and that wasn't by my doing, but I remember that by the DM choice because I came back as a troglodyte or something like that.
Troglodyte.
You came back as a troglodyte, and nobody's gonna let that smelly thing in their damn neighborhood, okay?
So the DM himself's like, nope, the whole village, the whole whatever came and killed me. I'm like, son of a bitch. But I'm basically, I allow kind of like what Jade said. I kind of just allow the systems ruling to be the thing. If they got the money, that's awesome. If they don't have the money, well, shit happens. These are fantasy, even fantasy movies and books we read back. The main character dies and comes back. So why can't our RPG be the same way? I mean, Conan in the Arnold Schwarzenegger version was on the brink of death, but they did a ritual and brought him back. I mean, it cost. There was a cost
Yeah,
to
but
it.
like I said before, Connell, that was more of like the second or third level death store spell that just brought you back from negative hit points, as opposed to
Right.
anything like an actual, resurrect. Otherwise, they would have brought back Valeria the same way at the end of the movie, which clearly that wasn't going to happen. She was dead, or
Right.
not just mostly dead.
Right, and I get bring out your dead, not dead yet. Anyways, but no, it's part of the system, and once again, if the players have the money or have the if you got a character that's a druid and can cast reincarnation, but it costs 1,000 gold pieces per shot, then whatever. But for the most part, I don't mind it too much because, like I said, fantasy novels that we've read, movies kind of have if the character dies, it's not very much for long. I might take him a whole book, but he does come back. For example, Jim Butcher, when one of Butcher's book covers that. I don't know if Token ever Token did it with fucking Gandalf. He can't, he fought the Balrog.
Balrog.
Yeah, he didn't die though. Well, technically, I don't think he died, but it was so iffy or vague.
If
In
you
the
watch
book,
the
I don't
movie,
think that's what happened.
if you watch the movie, he kind of lays out, says, I was dead. He didn't say I was dead, but I went to a different place and now I'm back. He died.
Well, one of the things in Tolkien's universe design is that world has the equivalent of a Mount Olympus for all of the beings who aren't mortal. Which
Right.
I guess
Gandalf was an angel by any other way of putting it.
Which is why is where Maiar, which is where Gandalf went. It's like Balrogs are technically Maiar too.
Yes, they are.
Corrupted by Morgoth, but they are. And that's the reason why the Balrog had the ability to hurt Gandalf that badly.
Right. So, I mean, if Token allows it and D&D is based off Token's work loosely, who am I to say no?
Well, one of the things with Tolkien's work, though, is that he kind of hinted that Gandalf was told by another more powerful being to get back to work.
Yeah. Get your ass up. The job's not done. And I get that. And I've done that in campaigns where a player dies and I'll have them roll a percentage roll to see if their deity shows up, and their deity gets them off their ass and tells them there's more work to do. So, I mean, if they got the ability and the cash, I normally don't say, I don't really say much about it. For consequences, I might fuck with them, give them post-traumatic stress disorder, just because I'm a little bit of an ass. When I say a little bit, I mean a lot. But other than that, I just let the system handle it.
True.
For me, it's completely different. I don't allow resurrect. I don't allow raise dead. I will allow reincarnate, but it's a very rare thing, and you'll get one. And if that doesn't work out, then the powers that be have spoken. You might after playing in one of my campaigns for many years, maybe come across a rod of resurrection or a life potion, but the actual gods, no, it's not going to happen that way because they will say no. If you died, it's your time to come to heaven or hell, period, end of story. Without such rulings, in my opinion, the entire game is nothing but a huge, long, ass-kissing contest where I kiss the asses of the players, and I'm not doing that. I'm not catering to them. It's got to be a two-way street. We're playing. I'm reffing. There's rules. There's consequences, and you can technically lose. Sometimes, though, when you lose, you don't. If you were playing a good aligned character and you die a noble warrior's death, or in the service of some greater power, then you just get to go to heaven, which I don't mean to put the just in front of it, but you are rewarded with the ultimate reward. You have one life. Your character gets to go on to the next level of existence, whatever that might be. And if you were a horrible individual of an evil alignment, then apparently your master, the devil, whatever, wants you, and it's now time for you to be his chew toy. So those are the consequences. Those are the things I use to keep my players in check. Those are the risks and rewards of playing this game. Just like in life, we have to deal with those possibilities depending on your own personal belief system or lack thereof. And I'm not going to cheapen the game by making it easy for you to come back. I view it probably pretty harshly, but like I mentioned a moment ago, I will allow for things like the death door that allows you to come back from negative 20 or some odd number of hit points. It's not a resurrect. It's you were mostly dead. However, if you get burned up, fall into a pit of acid or lava or something like that, that's it. Them's the breaks, There has to be those stories of death. There have to be those great memories of failure so that it will spur you on to be a better player the next time. If you constantly know all I have to do is get to 7, 8, 9th level and I'll never die, then chances are you'll never die because you will probably get there if you play smart. And I can't make the players play stupidly. I can't make them, play foolishly. And I also cannot trick them into unfair circumstances that everybody will see. Oh, you were just, trying to kill me off, things like that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to, be fair, but I'm going to be firm. So when you guys get to play in one of my games, this is kind of your fair warning. Hey, we're playing for keeps, and good luck.
Sounds like a good plan.
And I also expect the same. I'm playing in a couple of different games, and if my characters die, I would prefer to not come back. I'd rather roll up another character, even if I have to be first level, which I actually don't have a problem with. Mind you, if I'm playing a first level character in a 10th level game, I expect to die a whole bunch more than just the first time, because that's just, that's the way the game, kind of rolls. Once you get to a certain point, you got to be a certain point to hang out with the big boys. Otherwise, you're just watching horses for the rest of your gaming experience. Now, before we say goodnight, I did have 2 other questions, and we'll debate on whether or not we'll come back with a couple more questions added on top of that. But I think we got everything. And the last 2 questions were if you're really interested, you can check them out in the Discord section of the Gatekeepers. Those of you who can, get back to me and see if we want to move on with this. But I think we've kind of let everybody out there in TV land know where we stand when it comes to death and why players need to die from time to time. It's a great learning experience. It will teach you, and it will give you that that experience and those memories that every one of us here has. We've all had great characters or even crappy characters die that we'll never forget. It made us the players that we are by inspiring us to not let that happen again, especially if you've ever lost a relatively high level character. Whether it was your fault or not, you have that experience, you dealt with it, you moved on, and you became a better player. Without that learning experience, you don't learn the lesson. And what's the lesson, ladies and gentlemen? Don't die, right? Do whatever you can to not die.
If you do die, make sure it's an
Make it spectacular.
Make it spectacular, like Jay said, or make it in the arms of big-breasted redhead bartenders.
Make it worthy of a song.
Yeah, make it spectacular.
Or a disease. That works too.
God damn. That's just fucking nasty.
Calvin.
I mean, I prefer the they will speak of your name in tales of sorrow and destruction. That's my preferred, but okay.
Make it worthy of a song. I'd rather go out knowing that people are going to sing about me, for centuries to come. So with all that said, folks, I wanted to thank everybody who showed up tonight, everybody in the chat, our new friend Kevin, who's not really a new friend to some of you, but to me, I've, just recently become acquainted with him, and we started chatting. We've hung out before, but I'm glad you could make it tonight. Sorry you had to deal with the little life issue there, but, when she wakes up, give her a hug for us. And it looks like my friend Bruce wants to say something before we say goodnight. No? You just wanted to show your face? Hey, quick question, Bruce. Real quick question. I could have swore I saw you without the mustache a couple of days ago, and then you had it back.
It was the lighting, because I had the same thought. I'm like, he kept the goatee, but he shaved off the sash.
Okay. YouTube. I made a video called Rumble Placeholder, which means that it is a small 1 minute or less video where whenever I do a Rumble thing, I put that video up on Rumble, and people that are coming into the stream get this minute of Bruce. And I don't believe I have this. I think the caterpillar's off. So anyway, YouTube put it up in purgatory for a while, and I forgot about it, but it was a minute-long video. And for like 3 months, it was there. I forgot all about it. And so this thing popped up, and like 40 of my friends messaged me, "Oh my God, I like your new video." I'm like, "What new video?" "This video." That's not. Oh, YouTube did that. Okay. Thanks.
As I'm painting a guillotine, don't lose your head.
One of the few things that Wizards ever made back in 1997, I want to say, or no, 2006, is a card game called Guillotine. Really good game.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Oh, really quick, before we sign off, if James L. is still here, your package came in the mail today. I got everything. I am looking into how to paint metal miniatures. I've never done that before, so it should be a rare treat.
If you're doing this for the first time, I would recommend go to Reaper and download their How to Paint X series. They've got them all there.
Yep.
I got a Kukulin and an Irish Wolfhound, an owlbear, and some weird boob lady with a spear.
Weird boob.
Sweet. James is he's really a sweet guy. I'm just going to say it. He's one of the nicest guys out there, and hopefully we'll see him this weekend hanging out on one of the live streams. Looking forward to it. However,
we've got a big live stream on Saturday.
Well,
Yes,
I might not actually. I'll be there for the game, Bruce, but I might not have one. I might not have a show after the game, because if I don't cut this video off, I won't have the 5 minutes that I need to bilk StreamYard out of a nice long free video before my minutes roll over. So with that said, I'm going to say good night to everybody. We love you guys. Thank you for stopping by, including that 11th view set of eyeballs that just jumped in just now. Sorry you caught us late, but you can always rewind. We'll see you guys real soon. Bye, everybody.
All right.
Right.
Rewind.